was tight.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name after all these years.
He lives right here.
Right next to the sheriff.
He's here, we're here.
Sure.
He doesn't talk much. He's a nice guy. He's smart. He really is.
Let him get him going about this area.
Yeah, like, yeah, you don't want to get going about it.
Yeah.
I think he stopped Jeff one day when Jeff and Lisa were here. He cornered Jeff, and somehow Mike got him away.
Oh.
Glenn Heisler, man.
Yeah, I'd like to go back out there. So.
That's perfect, yes.
Yeah.
He and Green.
Yeah.
But she grew up in San Francisco or something.
Oh, well.
He met her.
Okay.
And so they live on a farm. And
Yeah.
but she's
Yeah.
My kids got me an Advent puzzle for Christmas season.
You already have it?
Yes, it's a 1,000-piece puzzle,
Okay.
and there's 24 boxes. You put a box together a day
Oh my
for 24 days.
And how big is it?
It's 19 by 27, something like that.
That's pretty big.
Not
Oh,
much.
is that a standard size?
It's a standard size. Here's the box, what it looks like, and there's the first day's piece I put together.
I can't make these darn things stay fastened. I'm gonna have to go get buttons like the Amish.
So you put this group together for 24 days, you got a 1,000-piece puzzle.
God, you're pretty busy.
Are you gonna be the main player?
What happens if there's
Candy in it or something?
No, it's just a puzzle. Just a puzzle.
I
Yeah.
like candy in mine.
Yeah. It's not. It only takes a couple minutes to sort the pieces out, put them together for individual days. I'll put this together with the least amount of time I've ever put a puzzle together.
Got 2 pages. I forgot.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Okay, welcome to First Universalist of New Madison on this first week of Advent. Nice weather. The guy on the TV weatherman was saying that this was the shortest, somewhere this week was the shortest day. Like sunset was like 5:15 or 5:16, something like that, but I looked it up online.
20th.
And it's the 21st is the winter solstice, which is the legal shortest. So I don't know whether he was confused or maybe he was saying it would be the 21st. Why he's talking about it yesterday, I don't know. But
It's not this week.
it got me thinking about it and looking it up. So that's partially, all this stuff will kind of fit together as we go along here. Any announcements? Okay, I've got a card here. Margaret sent us an email. She's been in touch with Richard and Marcia. Richard is not doing very good. He's getting more confused, so he's in the memory care unit. And she sent me the address. So what we're going to do is we'll make out a card. Everybody, if everybody will sign a card, and we'll send it to Marcia and to Richard, primarily to Marcia, let her know we're thinking
Is he
about
still at the retirement community?
They're in Centerville now. Centerville. I think, isn't that, Mike, do you remember?
Isn't that where they?
Last time I chatted with Marcia, she said they were investigating a move from Otterbein to someplace else for Richard's particular care needs. But I didn't realize that they had moved, but perhaps so now. They've relocated.
This is the note that Marcia sent to Margaret. Margaret, how nice to be included in your Thanksgiving email. Our life has changed a lot. Richard's Alzheimer's has gotten worse, so we now have moved to a retirement community where he can be in memory care, and I can be in independent living. The place is called the Courtyard at Centerville. I visit with him twice a day by just going down the hall to the memory care wing. Time flies. He turned 84 this past summer, and I turned 82. I turn 82 next week. Well, maybe we should send a birthday card too. Thanks again for thinking of us. And then Margaret, who is such a considerate person, said maybe it would be nice to share this information with the congregation. Marcia would appreciate the card from the church, which I
She doesn't have the address on it, though, does she?
Yeah, 10400 Randall Park Drive, Centerville, Ohio.
Okay, I'll get that later.
So, yeah, we'll get the address down and remind me, we've got birthday cards back there too. We'll send Marcia a birthday card, and we'll just, these are the cards I picked up at Aldi. They're like really cheap, unbelievably cheap for a card. But they just say just a note, so we write whatever we want on them. So, let's not forget to do that
Yeah.
Is
at
that
the
the
end.
current address, or do they have a new address?
Well, they said they went to a new facility, so you have the current address.
That's the new address in Centerville.
Yeah.
So, okay, this started out to be, and as you know, everything I do changes from minute to minute, and there's never too late to make a complete change and reverse course and go in the other direction. So I started out trying to do something on hope in a brutal world. Basically, with everything that's going on with Israel and Palestine and both sides thinking they are in the right and having the obligation and the responsibility and the permission to kill as many of the other people as they wanted. I started thinking about brutality in today's world, and then Tara, my wife, was fixing up her Advent things for New Carlisle, and you know what the first week of Advent, you know what the label is for the first week of Advent? Hope. So I said, well, what the heck? We're going to pile hope on top of hope. So we've not done Advent before, and I said, do we have an Advent wreath? And she said, yeah, but it's going to New Carlisle. And I said, well, how do we make an Advent wreath? And I'm sure all of you know from your past history of going to church, 4 candles, sometimes 5, in an evergreen wreath, and we'll talk about the history of Advent and where it came from. We had 4 tall candles. They're supposed to be 4 pink ones or 4 blue ones, and then a white one or a pink one or whatever the color is for the Christ candle. But we didn't have it, there's no way to stick them. We didn't have any little candle holders. All we had was those big tall ones, and that's not going to work. So I said, I'll just go to Walmart and get an Advent wreath. I went to Walmart and went everywhere in Walmart. They have candles, but they don't have Advent wreaths. All they had was the little basic wreath. I said, well, all I need is a little candle holder to stick a tall candle in. They don't even have candle holders. So I'm going to have to order something online for the rest of the month or the next year or whatever. I hope people don't object. I mean, we're not a truly Christian practicing church, but we have Christian roots and Christian backgrounds, and I think Advent is something that we can all benefit from. And the theory and the thought and the prayers that go with it are not to be misplaced. We don't have to place our emphasis on Christ. We can place our emphasis on hope. Yes?
Just a couple, go ahead, finish.
Well, I can stop anytime.
Just a couple of quick announcements. First of all, thanks for the individual who brought this beautiful poinsettia. We do accept those each year in memory of anyone, or just bring one in if you like, so feel free to do that. I should have put that in our announcements, and I didn't.
That's a beautiful poinsettia.
Did you bring it?
No, that's Kenny.
Kenny, thank you, Kenny. And the other thing is Marilyn had sent a mitten tree request to us, and we talked about it last week. I neglected to put that in our printed announcement that went out on the internet this week. We can still bring in mittens for children, and we'll get them to her. Marilyn Dell sponsors that with another organization each year.
Yeah.
So that was my announcements that I somehow was a little late in providing and did not put them on the internet.
And I was going to ask too, were we overlooked again this year on the collections from?
Haven't received any inquiries.
They probably have the Bell stuff down at the mini mart and all, so.
Yeah.
But we have to be invited by the community or by the organization to volunteer to staff
We
it.
had completed that several years in a row, and then the last couple we have not. So
Right, they've not asked
we have
us.
not received a call.
Right. And they've not asked us, and we
Yeah.
can't just push our way in and say we'll do it. Although I suppose, be interesting, we could set up our own bell and make our own contributions. And give it to the community and go around the whatever the body that's in charge of this is.
The mittens were returned in on the 17th, was it?
Yes,
17th of December?
for the mittens,
Yeah.
yes, Kenny, that's right.
And we had a nice meeting last Sunday, service last Sunday at El Dorado.
Yes.
Very enjoyable to carry in. Very nice people. I think we need to continue our contact and joint services with them. And it was interesting, they don't have a mitten tree, they have a sock and underwear tree, which I thought was underwear.
But they're giving those to the homeless people.
Yes, the homeless people, and that's what Derek said. He said if you go to the homeless shelter, the primary need that they have is socks and underwear, because homeless people don't have laundry facilities and they don't go out and buy stuff. And the things you go through the fastest, that get the dirtiest and you throw away the quickest, are your socks and your underwear. So I think a mitten tree is a good idea, but we might want to consider the socks and underwear tree at the same time. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. So keep that in mind as we go along.
We used to do that as a part of an outreach that Margaret handled when she was outreach chair.
Right.
We collected those.
So I don't think anybody would object. We have our mitten tree, we can hang underwear on the mitten tree. That would be kind of an interesting sight anyway.
May want to get them to different recipients, however.
Yes. Okay, our welcome is the placing of candles upon a circle of evergreens is an age-old tradition. Lighting additional candles each day or week as the light wanes has been part of the human ritual for centuries upon centuries. We are warmed by the glow. We are reminded that the wheel of the season will turn and the brilliant lengthening days will return. The original Advent wreath in the Christian tradition dates back to the 16th century and includes a candle for each of the 24 days leading up to Christmas. For us, in this time, the circle of evergreens remind us that life and love will never end. We light candles each week with anticipation as we know the new season will soon be here. Days will become longer, and we know the warmth of the candles will soon be replaced by the warmth of the sun. Prelude?
Prelude. You've heard me play before. It is Sing We Now of Christmas. It's a medieval French carol.
All right, we can start our Christmas celebration.
If you want to follow the words, it's on page 254 in your hymnal.
254 in the hymnal if you want to follow along.
And I played it before.
Sing we now of Christmas, Noel. That is such a joy. All right, our chalice lighting, which I've already written our first candle. Advent candle is the candle of hope. Hope is the motivating force that moves us through times of despair. The days are getting shorter, the weather colder, the nights longer. Hope tells us that longer days are ahead and that new life will emerge, and that we need to hold on just a little longer. With hope, we begin our journey toward the sun and the new life it brings. We light the candle of hope. And that is our theme for our slides. Most of my slides were picked out during my time of despair, so you get a pretty heavy load of that, and then hopefully we can bring hope back up at the end. We'll see. You can tell me how we did in your comments. Opening hymn. I don't have the name of it yet, or the number.
Can I give it to you?
No.
Deck the Hall with Boughs of Holly, page 235.
235.
Oh, I have to give it to you.
That's all right. I was a little busy. I forgot my phone this morning,
Oh, okay.
so I had to run home, which made me way behind the 8 ball here. Affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. Our faith in each other is its sacrament. Working for justice and living with compassion is its prayer. Reverently, we covenant together to side with love, to heal and not to harm, and to share hope with each other and with the world. Joys and concerns? We'll light a candle for Richard and Marcia.
Yes.
Keep them in our hearts and our thoughts throughout the year, not just this time. And remember to sign the card before you leave that we'll send to them. Actually, we get 2 cards, a birthday card and a notice card for Richard. Israel, Palestine, things are just getting worse. The peace pauses has lapsed, and the Israelis have started bombing the Palestinians again. The Palestinians wail and complain about the innocents being killed, but never seem to say anything about the innocent Israelis that were killed, the children and old women and old people that were killed. And the Israelis complain about their children who are kept captive, their parents who are kept captive, but don't seem to have much of a care for the Palestinians who are being bombed. They're told to leave the north part of Gaza and go to the south part. They go to the south part and they're bombed there as well. So each side has taken part in the cruelty, has been invested in the cruelty, and hope seems to be in pretty short supply. The one interesting thing I will say, if I've noticed, there are, particularly in the United States, groups of Jews who say they support the Palestinians. The Palestinians have been treated poorly, and that the Jewish state, Israel, should do a better job in their treatment of the Palestinians. I have not seen any Palestinians vocally and publicly say that the Israelis have been treated poorly by the attacks on them. That is one thing I will give the Jewish community credit for. Not all the Jews. Some of these Jews who do this are being attacked by the other Jews, by the Israeli Jews, for being too soft on the Palestinians. But I see that as one of the prime tenets of Judaism as a religion, as caring for all the world, not just for yourself. And I give them credit for that. Yes?
If you would light a candle of remembrance, I lost a good friend this week, Judith Betcher, and she was just with her family and attended her memorial service yesterday. So.
Judith Betcher?
And she has several grandchildren as well as a son and daughter-in-law, and so we want to remember them with a candle.
Okay. We have a candle for Judith and her family. This time of year, it seems particularly hard. It's hard any time of the year, but this time of the year, as the holidays approach, loss. And that's one thing, as we get older, the loss seems to keep increasing and increasing. More people that we know we're losing. So it becomes more and more important to remember those as they pass.
Tim, we could also, I just heard on a Sunday morning show as I was printing our programs, suicide rates are increasing, as we all read about periodically, and just a very, very sad figure they quoted. Now the rate almost 132 individuals each day committing suicide.
Yes.
Each day. And it would be a very interesting segment of very newsworthy. But we think about that and we think of the stigma attached to those and the historical significance of it. And then we look at today, we look at the stresses. And well, I think your sermon topic of hope is very needed today.
And that's something I'll pull out of what was in the sermon. In Israel this year, there have been 206,000 permits to carry a gun granted. 206,000 since the attack of Hamas. That is more than were granted in the last 20 years in Israel. Israel has always been a peaceful society, a liberal society, where people didn't feel the need to carry guns. The same fear that has infected the more conservative members of American society, where everybody feels there's nobody there to protect them, you have to protect yourself, means everybody is armed, everybody's carrying a gun. And part of the creation of despair in the country is all these people using their guns, not in a normal, sanctioned environmentally welcome way, using their guns as part of rage, anger, and being upset. And we'll do some examples of those. I'm sure you've seen them on the news. Someone who's upset with his neighbor just pulls out a gun and shoots him. Someone at Walmart who was mad because somebody didn't give him the present that he wanted or the package that he wanted or something, pulled out a gun and shot him. It's just, the craziness goes on and on and on. So a candle for suicides and for the impending number of, think of all the kids who are going to find guns in the bedroom or in the table in the kitchen and pull it out and shoot somebody. So
Poinsettia is in memory of Janet and our parents and brothers and sisters.
okay, Kenny's got a poinsettia. Everybody's welcome to bring a poinsettia. If you want to bring it in memory of someone who's passed or in memory of just someone you wish to announce, please feel free to do that. This one is in memory of Janet. Dearly missed. We miss her every Sunday when she's not here. And everybody is welcome to bring a poinsettia in. Poinsettia or poinsettia. Any others? I almost forgot, we still have our sunflowers. We don't want to put Ukraine at the back of the bus. Their problems are still there. They are still fighting in the beginning of winter. The progress they have hoped to make was not made as expected, but it is pretty much a stalemate, which is pretty unbelievable considering the size of Ukraine and the size of their economy and what they started out with compared to the Soviet Union, or which is now Russia. 10 times the size. Russia has space, people in space, space stations, advanced armament, and they're still being held toe-to-toe by the Ukrainians. I would almost say the plucky Ukrainians, with American and NATO help. Right, one last candle for all those joys and concerns, those fears, those perhaps depressions that come upon us at the holiday season when we're supposed to be happy, and we say, it's holiday, it's Christmas, everybody should be happy, and yet I'm not happy. So why is that? We light a candle for those. If there's anything we can do to help you become happy, please let us know. Okay, children's story. Let's see. This is something, we'll go back if we have time, we'll go back and do that. It's just another statement. This was a little British rendition of what is Advent, and I don't know why these, there it is maybe.
So what is Advent? Advent is the start of the Christian year. It is a time for Christians to prepare for the celebration of the birth of Jesus. It is also a time for Christians to look forward to, a time when Jesus will come again. The word Advent comes from a very old word, adventus, which means the arrival of something or someone important. Advent traditionally begins on the fourth Sunday before Christmas Day. It typically starts on the nearest Sunday to November the 30th and lasts until midnight on Christmas Eve. Advent is a time for Christians to enjoy time with their family and friends. Churches display an Advent crown or an Advent wreath during Advent. There are 4 candles standing in a circle, and in the centre there is a 5th candle. In churches, on the first Sunday of Advent, the first candle is lit, and then each Sunday a new candle is lit. And then finally on Christmas Day, the 5th Advent candle is lit. Christians believe that this represents the coming of Jesus, who for them is the light of the world. The 4 candles represent hope, peace, joy and love, and of course the 5th and final candle represents Jesus. During this time of year, children often make Christingles during Advent. These usually consist of an orange, which represents the world. There's then a red ribbon that goes around the orange, which represents and reminds us that Jesus died for us. There's then 4 cocktail sticks in the orange, which represent the 4 seasons. And quite often there are sweet or dried fruit on the cocktail sticks. These represent all of God's creations. And then finally, the candle in the middle reminds Christians of Jesus, the light of the world. As children make their own Christingles, they're reminded of what each element represents and that Christingle means Christ's light. Today, often people have advent calendars at home. These start on the 1st of December and count down to Christmas. Each day a new door opens and shows a Christmas picture, and most now have a chocolate or a treat hidden behind each door. Did you know that this is how advent calendars started? And do you have your advent calendar ready at home? Let us know in the comments below.
Ever heard of a Christingle? Customs in other countries are just amazing and interesting. Christingle with the red ribbon around it for Christ's sacrifice in orange. And as you know, as when this started in the 1800s, early 1900s, oranges were pretty rare anywhere. Well, not in Brazil or Florida, but they were rare in places that didn't have oranges, didn't have orange trees. So to get an orange in Britain was a special treat in your stocking. And they made these Christingles with the 4 swizzle sticks in them. Just amazing amount of inventiveness that goes on to entertain kids there. How to be humane in an inhumane world. And that kind of combines with Advent, because Advent is the season of expectant waiting and preparation for the celebration of the Nativity of Jesus. The name derives from the Latin adventus, meaning coming. Marked over the course of the 4 Sundays before Christmas, Advent is traditionally celebrated with an Advent wreath, which we have here, a ring of evergreen with 3 purple and 1 pink, or 4 purple and 1 white, or I've seen all the different colors, that represent hope, love, joy, and peace. Each week is a different concentration. This week is hope. Next week is love, joy, and peace. And then Christmas Day is the birth of Christ with the white candle. We've kind of gone through that a little bit. The shortest day, winter solstice, and that's one thing that impacts everyone as the days get darker. That implies and brings us, with all our movie history and the literature that we've seen and the childhood stories and Halloween, darkness is brutality, darkness is danger, darkness is scary. The winter and the dark is a time not to be enjoyed, not to have to think of sleigh rides and sleds and ice skating and bonfires and hay rides, not to think of that, but to think of the evil that lurks in the darkness. So the brutality is all around us. The primary one we're talking about now, and you see on television, is Israel and Palestine. Just disastrous. The bombings, they've destroyed almost 1/3 of all the buildings in Gaza. The people have no place that's safe. Children, the hospitals are being attacked. The justification is, and we understand the justification, and I'm not so sure I disagree with it. Hamas is not stupid. They put their headquarters under hospitals, under schools, under mosques, under libraries, and then say, nah, you can't attack us because there's civilians above us. The Israelis have decided they don't care. And they won't say they don't care, but by their actions speak louder than their words, basically. It is a very difficult conundrum. We can't really say anything about it because we dropped 2 atomic bombs on 2 cities in Japan at the end of World War II. And there were proposals to drop the atomic bomb as a demonstration on an uninhabited island or a part of the country, a rural part of the country that didn't have a large population. There's been discussion on why they decided not to do that. The 2 targets they chose, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were not big military targets. They were civilian populations. So those people were sacrificed to convince the Japanese leadership to give up, which it did. And some people say they were going to give up after the first bomb, but the first bomb was an atom bomb. The second bomb was a hydrogen bomb. The scientists and the military were eager to test the hydrogen bomb in real life things, so they hurried up and dropped the hydrogen bomb, even though it may not have been necessary, just to see what it would do. Evil is not limited to any one particular country, any one particular race, any one particular gender. It spreads throughout. And lest we think that evil began with the hydrogen bomb or the atomic bomb dropped on Japan, if you remember World War II, the bombing of the cities, Dresden, for instance, like 50,000 people were burned to death in Dresden. They actually dropped incendiary bombs. It was not a military target. It was to break the German will to fight, break the German will to continue the war, which, if you know anything about Germans, they're pretty stubborn people, and it was impossible to break their will, is what it amounted to. So they killed 40,000 in that case. Hamburg was another city that was firebombed. These cities were almost eliminated by firebombing for no other reason than to kill civilians. Did this start with World War II? No. If you read any history at all, brutality and mass murder, if you read the Bible and read of God's commandments to the Israelis to wipe out different tribes in the land of Israel or Palestine, including the animals, the goats, the horses, everything was killed at that time. So it's not a new thing that's happening. Okay, but it's not just, well, the other thing I want to mention is, I'm sure you've seen the stories of the 3 Palestinian students that were shot in Vermont. 3 Palestinians, all of whom have been raised, have an American parent one way or the other, speak perfect English, were walking down the street in Burlington, Vermont, and they were speaking in Arabic and wearing the kafir, which is the Palestinian scarf. A guy walked off his porch, didn't say a word, and shot all 3 of them, and then walked back into his house and waited for the police to come. What is the mentality that strikes with that? That's not been discussed yet. And it doesn't have to be with shooting, it can also be with screaming. All of us have probably witnessed in the grocery store or seen on TV people who get upset about something and start yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs, bashing people. Maybe they're not killing anybody, but they've lost their temper. And what is it about rage that does that? And then I want to go a little bit farther on brutality. This is a picture, I get his name here. This is Michael Schutz. He was 16 years old in a small town in Wisconsin. The primary business in that town was a sawmill. His father worked at the sawmill for like 20 years, had started there when he was 14. Now he was driving a forklift on the outside of the sawmill, and Michael was working on the inside of the sawmill, supposedly sorting pallets. Something got jammed up on a conveyor belt, and Michael got on the conveyor belt to try and clear the jam, and when it started up, he was dragged into the machinery and suffocated. 16 years old and died at the sawmill. This is not an unusual occurrence. And this little town of 2,000, it really shook but these people there's a history, and everybody who has farming relatives or knows people that farm, kids, when I was a kid, 12, 14, I was driving a tractor. Kids work on family farms, but should kids be working in industrial occupations like this? That's the question that's coming up. What is strange about this is, Michael was 16. When he got his driver's license, he signed that little box that says, what? I want to be an organ donor. Michael and his mother here, Christine, his father and his mother were separated. She lived separately, but still in the same town. She was an alcoholic for years, and you can see by looking at her, she looks pretty tough, but had quit drinking 16 months ago, was on the liver transplant list for cirrhosis. Whose liver did you get?
Her sons.
Her son donated his liver, so something good came out of his death. But what I want to bring up to you is, this year, Wisconsin Republicans introduced bills that would eliminate work permits for 14 and 15-year-olds and allow children as young as 14 to serve alcohol in restaurants. Let me go by that again. Wisconsin Republicans have introduced bills that would eliminate work permits for 14 and 15-year-olds. That would be the lowest age limit in the country, according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. I've talked to you before about the meatpacking plants in Minnesota and Iowa, where immigrant children as young as 15 and 16 And I showed you the picture dressed up in protective suit. They work the night shift where nobody sees them, and they clean these razor sharp knives and machines that shred the meat. There have been numerous injuries and a couple deaths. And what has happened is, instead of saying we want to strengthen the protection for kids, the conservative majority in these red states says we want to lessen the protection. Kids should be allowed to work. We want to encourage kids to work. They're part of the family, and they just gloss over or ignore the injury and death that occurs and is associated with this. Reprehensible in any shape or form. Okay, so brutality is not new. How do we keep an open heart in a brutal environment? You can go back and look. There's kind of two avenues that they talked about here that I've found. One is you can take Greek, which is a philosophical attitude, or you can take the Christian. And it's not just Christian, it's I guess you would call it the Abrahamic faith. Abraham is revered in all three faiths. The Christian faith reveres Abraham. The Jewish faith reveres Abraham, and surprisingly to many people, the Muslim faith reveres Abraham. Muslims admit or say that Jesus Christ, was a prophet. They just don't admit that he was a god or reborn or any of those things. But they do admit that Christ was a figure in the Bible, do admit that Christ was a figure in history, and admit that Christ was a prophet and follow his teachings. Turn the other cheek is something that we see on the Christian teachings. We see it in the Jewish teachings, and actually it is there in Muslim teaching, but it seems to be subsumed by the more Muslim fanatical right-wing God is great and the jihad thing where you kill for your God, something that never seemed to come up with the Jewish or Christian faith. Christians have martyrs, and they're like Muslim martyrs, the difference being a Muslim martyr kills other people to gain martyrdom, whereas a Christian martyr is a pacifist or a nonviolent and turns the other cheek and allows themselves to be killed and becomes a martyr for the faith, but they do not fight back. Interestingly, the Jews in what was the name of the mountaintop resort? Masada, yeah. Was an interesting revolt by the Jews against the Romans. The Romans set up a siege system and basically were going to overtake the mountaintop when all of the Jews in Masada committed suicide. That is a very revered incident in Jewish history, and the Jews fight back. If you remember in Warsaw, Poland, toward the end of World War II, when the Russians were approaching Poland and approaching Warsaw, the Nazis were killing as many people as possible in the Warsaw Jewish ghettos. The ghetto rose up in revolt and fought off the Germans with primitive weapons, homemade weapons, and actually were doing a pretty good job, and were hoping the Russians, who were only a few miles away, would come save them. And you know the result of that? The Russians sat back and waited till the Germans killed all of the Jews so they wouldn't have to worry about it when they got there. Brutality is something inherent in human nature. How do we keep hope alive? That is the question. The Abrahamic faith, I talked to you about a little bit about that. Part of what causes brutality, and I did a little bit of study on this, it seems to be rage. It seems to be anger, uncontrolled anger. And we're always taught as kids not to fight, to restrain yourself. If somebody provokes you, you don't go back and hit them. That's the primary rule at grade school and recess. And yet the teacher is not always watching, and bullying continues even to this day. Many of the shootings that are done at schools are by kids who said, I was bullied the whole time here and I'm getting mine back. I'm not sure how they make that transition from being bullied to become a bully, but we see that in human behavior over and over again. Kids who are abused as children, who are beaten and neglected as children, become parents who do the same thing. It always has amazed me, as you take a minority or you take someone who has been abused, wouldn't it be common sense to say, I am sensitive to that being done to me and I will not have it done to anyone else? And yet some kind of switch is flipped in these people and they do the same exact thing. And sometimes you hear it justified. My parents beat me with a switch, or I was paddled with a paddle, or I was paddled with a belt, and look how I turned out, so I'm going to beat my children. Beating children, and as a foster parent, I can tell you that does not work. It creates children who beat their own children. It's a continuing cycle of violence that goes on and on. So this rage is kind of, and it's one thing we've noticed with the conservative element in our country, it's a self-righteous rage. I have a right to be angry. You have affronted me, you've insulted me, you've taken something of mine. If you talk about the feelings of people trying to get for white power, they're saying, they will tell you to your face, white people are the minority in this country. They're not the minority, but they will say black people, Hispanic people, Chinese people, everybody gets a good break, and white people are left out in the cold. If you look at employment figures, income figures, every other figure you want to look at, white people are not disadvantaged. White people are still in the catbird seat, but they feel like they're losing their place because, and actually it is true, within the next 40 years, whites will become a minority in this country. They are feeling scared that they're losing their privileges. That's being scared. The next step, particularly if you take those little embers of fear and you blow on them with a politician's breath of fear and tragedy and danger, what's going to happen to you and what's going to happen to your kids, you can blow and you can increase that little ember into a flame of rage. And self-righteous rage is the best kind of rage. If you look at our history of our movies, Billy Jack, Jason Bourne, Luke Skywalker, all of these are innocent, peaceful people set upon by relentless evil that erupts into righteous violence. Reacher is one that's common now. There's a couple others that I can't really remember, but I'm sure all of you have seen all of these movies where the innocent person is accosted by the gang, the evil gang. He withstands this over and over and over, and finally he snaps and just destroys his enemies, just beats them to a pulp. And it's not, he uses violence to maintain civility and maintain an equality. He beats them to a pulp and basically destroys them. That is something that our society tends to justify. I'm not sure why that is. There's something psychological about that. Maybe it's the fact that we all want to be a hero. We look at these people as heroes. Jason Bourne, Luke Skywalker, Billy Jack. They are people who started out as peaceful, nonviolent, and then they became violent, and they became a hero with the violence. All of us imagine ourselves as heroes, so we buy a gun, and then we carry that gun with us, and we have all these little things going through our head. Boy, maybe there'll be a bank robbery and I can stop the bank robbery, or maybe somebody will be stealing gas or stealing money from the gas station, and I'll be there. And we've all seen those little stories on YouTube where the guy turns around and cold cocks the guy who's trying to steal something. We don't see the stories where the guy gets shot by the bandit or beat to a pulp himself. But that's what we're doing, is playing out these movies in our head of being a hero. The trouble is, once you have a gun and once you have fantasies of using a gun, then using the gun becomes normative. It becomes something that you have always wanted to do, and you're looking for an excuse to do it. And then pretty soon the excuse becomes a crap excuse. The guy who followed the Trayvon Martin in Florida and thought he might be a black teenager who was going to rob somebody in the middle of the night. He was coming back from the convenience store with a snack. That's all he was doing, was carrying a snack, walking down the street. And this guy started following him. And then he started running because he knew somebody was following him. And then he waited around the corner. When the guy came around the corner, he basically attacked him and said, "Why are you following me?" And the guy pulled out a gun and shot and killed him, and was released and held unaccountable in Florida because of the Defend Your Ground. He provoked Trayvon Martin into standing up for himself, and Trayvon Martin was killed for it and not held to account. His killer was not held to account. Okay, so the theme of the first week is keep hope alive. The theme is hope. We hope that we can be better than our brutal basic natures, truly to turn the other cheek and love our neighbor. I do not have any magic prescriptions on how to achieve that. We say it every week, love your neighbor. We say it every week, we are here to help. We say it every week, and maybe by repetition, that will do some good. Maybe by creating a community of peaceful people, that will do some good. I do not have the answer for that. Okay, comments?
You almost think hope is sort of shrouded in optimistic security, if you really think about that. We want to be optimistic, we want to think things are going to be great, so therefore there's hope. And you use the examples of Palestinian-Israeli conflict. That has been in the making for year after year after year after year. It's been the subject of diplomatic negotiations year after year, each country well-intentioned trying to turn that around. That inherent rage does lead to not just civil acts of violence, but more importantly, widespread, brutal acts of violence. And we're seeing it play out now.
Yep.
So, and then you look at the motivations of those who are trying to reestablish hope, as in the other Arabic countries. We look back at previous presidential administration in the US. We just couldn't keep that fire kindled of hope there. And we're seeing this violence play out daily. Basically, as you pointed out earlier, Tim, 3/4 of Gaza destroyed. Absolutely bulldozed, rubble, destroyed. With a phenomenal loss of life. So I guess the hope in that is, we've seen it play out before. So we have to remain optimistic is where I'm going with this.
And I think I'm beginning to think the absence of hope creates space for rage. The previous administration, the Palestinians had always, and America had always said to the Israelis, you need to quit spreading your settlements into Palestine. You need to quit appropriating Palestinian olive groves and Palestinian farms and houses.
And restricting our security and our supply lines.
Yes.
Building up walls.
And building
where
walls.
we have to go through miles of security just to get to our place of employment.
And then the last administration canceled any aid we were providing to Palestine. They moved the capital of Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a universal city. There are multiple nationalities have a valued part of Jerusalem. The Greek Orthodox Church has holy sites in Jerusalem. Christians have holy sites in Jerusalem. Muslims have holy sites in Jerusalem. For the Israelis to plant their capital there and basically say, we are taking over the whole city, is blowing out that little ember of hope in Palestine. For the Arabs who think now nobody is standing with us, nobody is speaking for us, what do we have left? Hope is disappearing. When hope disappears, the only emotion left is anger and rage. And that is maybe the stimulation, and maybe that is why even Palestinian mothers of 60 years old say, I don't care what happens to the Israelis, they deserve it. Or like the one Republican legislator who said in Florida, when the Democratic legislator said, how many Palestinian deaths will be enough for the Israelis? And she said, all of them. She literally said in public, all of them. There can't be any more closer approximation to Nazi Germany in the quote of Hitler. And I put that, where did I put that? Here's a quote from Adolf Hitler. Brutality creates respect. This is a common conservative theme. Brutality creates respect. Beat your kids, they will respect you. Beat your opponents, they will respect you. Beat opposing nations, they will respect you. Brutality creates respect. You want to hear the quote from Martin Luther King? The silence of the good is more dangerous than the brutality of the bad. The silence of the good is more dangerous than the brutality of the bad. Okay. All right, let us proceed. Our offering, as is usual, this is the first Sunday, so this is also Fish Sunday. And even though we're not ringing the bell and collecting at the mini mart, we can do our fish contributions here. Okay, our closing hymn.
Page 236.
236. Okay. Who knows what Sanctissima is, or how to pronounce it? I have never seen that one before, so I will look that one up and see what we can find out. I forgot, we have to light a candle of joy for me. Strangely, one of my houses caught fire in Union City, burned the roof completely off of it. I've got pictures if you want to see the pictures. The reason it's a thing of joy is the people that were living there hadn't paid their rent, hadn't paid their electric bill. Actually, part of the problem was the furnace. I let her go to that house because she didn't have a place to go, and I said, we're still fixing it, so you can live there for a modest, a couple $100 a month till we get it fixed up. She didn't pay anything, and she was heating the house with her oven. Opened the oven door and left the oven on wide open. The electric bill for 1 month was $500, and there's no furnace, and I didn't see any electric space heaters in there. So then, when you run the oven for 24 hours a day at 350 degrees, it overheats the supply line. A 9-gauge wire is not meant to carry that kind of voltage on a permanent basis. So it started to smell like burning plastic, so they called the fire department. The fire department came and said, there's really nothing wrong, there's no fire, but we do smell burning plastic. And I said, do me a favor, call AES and have them pull the meter, because it cost me $600 to evict these people. It takes like a month or 2 months. If they pull the meter, they'd have no electricity, they have to leave. So 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, AES pulled the meter. We went in and checked the electricity and everything seemed to be fine, and we started working on the house, fixing it up, and they had moved out. All their stuff was there, which we had to move in the garage, but at least they had moved out. So why I say it was a thing of joy is when that house caught fire and the roof burned off of it, there were nobody living there. There could have very easily been kids in those upstairs bedrooms if she hadn't been evicted. So that to me...
Catch fire.
What's that?
How to catch fire.
We found, and I can show you the pictures, there is in the upstairs wall, and I used to be on the fire department, we used to have a great time. You just rip the house apart when you're on the fire department. This was all lath walls, and they ripped all the lath off all of them. So when we rebuilt it, we put drywall on. They actually did me a favor. But when they ripped it off, there's one gap between two studs. It's all black and charred from the bottom clear to the top into the attic. Right beside it, completely clean. There's no charring whatsoever. On the other side, completely fresh, no charring whatsoever. So somewhere in the bottom of that cavity, either a mouse chewed into something, because there's no switch there, there's no outlet there, but the wire coming, Romex wire, the wire coming in has insulation. When you get into that cavity, there's no insulation all the way up. The copper wires are there, but no insulation. So something caused a short there. It caught fire, burned up the channel into the attic, went across the attic and burned the roof off. So the downstairs is water damage, the second story is water damage, but there's no burn damage except to the roof. So we're going to see if we can fix it or what the insurance company tells me I have to do with it. But the main thing is, and she complained about her stuff. It was in the garage. It wasn't even hurt in the fire. The garage was saved. And she still wants me to give her money to support her. And I said, I moved you out of one house that you didn't pay rent in to a cheaper house just to give you a place to live while you look for someplace. And you didn't pay your rent there, and you didn't pay your electric bill there, and you want me to give you money. No, as a matter of fact, I want you to buy me a car. I need a car so I can get to work.
And her stuff wasn't water damaged?
No, her stuff wasn't damaged, but she's missing like some shelves to her refrigerator or something, and she wants me to pay for those, and she's missing her Roku or whatever, some kind of thing that plugs into the TV. I mean, I said, you can keep your stuff in my garage if you want to pay rent for the garage, but I'm not just keeping it there for free for months and months and months. So it's just, life is so interesting. It just is a joy for me every day to wake up and see what's going to happen. All right, our extinguishing the chalice, beyond, we're going to go back to our UU roots here. Behind the Christian is the pagan. It's now generally accepted that the origins of Advent and Christmas lie in the midwinter festivals celebrated by ancient cultures. The pagan take on Advent is pretty familiar to anyone concerned with the interplay between nature and the human. It's the season that approaches the turn of the year, moving inexorably in the northern hemisphere anyway, to the darkest, deadest point. Then after a short period of standing still, that is the meaning of solstice, standing still, the sun resumes its journey, bringing light and the renewal of life. As in Christianity, it's thought of in terms of birth, but rather than a single human and dramatic interruption of history, The rebirth of the sun is part of the cycle of life and the earthly nature of things. In both versions of Advent, Sundays, the day of the sun, are significant. Okay, postlude. At New Madison Unitarian Universalist. We're going to leave a candle here for a little bit longer for the family of Judith Betcher, whose family is suffering at this time. And our Between the Ears is not between the ears, but it is a horse at Christmas, so that's what you get. All right, please sign the note for Margaret and Marcia and Richard. And there are extra donut holes and all kinds of stuff to snack on while we do a little bit of decoration.
Bring that down, it's kind of dead, I think, batting. So.
Well, all you can do is try and if not.
Yeah,
We'll take the ladder back to the waist.
we'll give it a try. We can't. Well, we can't.
Well, if you want to leave the ladder, I'll bring my guys tomorrow. We can change it.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
You don't mind, Ken, right?
No, I don't know.
I used to buy it like one.
Don't get $15 an hour, take less than an hour.
Oh.
Wouldn't take that long.
Yeah.
And these guys are older. These guys are
Next week,
well, I catch them smoking dope, they're supposed to be.
Oh, that's.
These are
ribbon on it.
You're welcome.
Figure it out.
Pictures out, so I'm like, oh, okay, it's over there.
That cookies are good.
So Janice,
Yes.
after you have your cup of coffee, when those go down and get the chocolate,
I'm not shaking.
window stuff,
You knew you were.
Christmas toast, or window. Yeah.
Passing away.
We'll look at it. We'll look at it.
Okay, we're just doing that.
She did a nursing home level. She broke her. She had knee surgery. She went on with the knee surgery the next day, so broke her.
Yeah.
Same way, they fixed the knee.
Oh, poor soul.
The nursing home. You know, some people,
Yeah.
Lizzie, well, what's going on, you know,
Yeah.
ingest stuff in their lungs.
Well,
It's not smart. You know, just said it, and she was going
the
to.
whole thing down.
But I went to funeral yesterday, and her family is holding up her. She only had one son.
That's not too.
Yeah, so he has a couple of his daughters, and they were married now, they were seen him for years, so they bought him off originally. And they're both like, one's still at school, at Montgomery Tower, and he might be about to see this. And the other one's graduating.
And he had that light.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
well, it was like that, and so. Decorates on the funeral, you know, whatever it is, loves that. And like that white stuff. Yeah.
Just a skull, like a skull.
You know, I've seen those at that.
No, why?
Antique, place in Springfield. I've seen those little trees like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like going there, we went once this year. Now,
You mean at the antique mall?
Yeah.
My friend Tom, so my friend Tom, who's almost in West Virginia, he came back from his funeral, Judy, she's a very friend of ours, yesterday. And so, we had lunch at a pizza place in, Eden, which was horrible. And when he was going back, he said, I'm sorry.
now,
Yeah.
is, question about TV, is that what you do?
My one of them.
Okay.
She had, well, she did fall in, and she always on the wall or whatever, and she would have these surgeries.
What do you ladies want an address again?
And broke her leg immediately.
So like, is it right resolution?
Same leg day.
That's too bad. Is this the one that is probably money?
Yeah, that's the envelope, yeah.
You know, a lady I work with, hired 2 years ago. So we were like.
Got that picture right there as well.
Yeah, I know it's, I think that's probably 10. I don't know. But you know how I BT.
Because they took her to Miami Valley, and then they Miami Valley, her player, to the James, who were Columbus, because she got leukemia. And that's the woman before could see her like 3 weeks ago.
104?
You know, and, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe if they think I'm going, you know, I don't know, but man, that was.
You know, my older sister got it 3 years ago. And, she did.
Well, just hand it to him, he takes it.
They do that chemo, they won't give it to you, you're let them do it.
And it's 4x4.
Oh, here.
Where did you go? Where did you go?
Thank like to have hope.
Yeah, luckily we don't have any silver candles like that.
So that's why I watched the news.
She knows sometimes I don't either. Sometimes I don't either.
So.
It's at rest.
She's still asking for more.
You know, those people get in the habit of asking money, and it does hurt their feelings when they're trying to know. They're so used to using this as a gift, their precious dollars. And they really work because my kids are as hard as getting the money and just learn how to get a job to earn the money.
Say that word, or like,
And we went out.
oh, shit, I think I refuse, I want to get all out.
Well, I think it's kind of critical, she's the professional pastor.
It's not our
They always try to be so happy.
What I tell her is, everybody gets one chance or two chances, or five chances. You know, so she says, I don't get it's either you or you. She wants that. What makes you think
What is your safe response to that? I mean, you kind of and you're nice about it, but it bounce right off.
people are mentally disturbed. I mean, she swears that back to show you where she says, you know, you're a feel great or whatever.
Oh, okay. And so therefore, can I make you feel guilty and you'll get a money? I will.
Right away.
Thermostat back. I'll turn the heater down.
Okay.
I couldn't hear my wife.
I'll get things back up here.
You don't have a very good track record.
This is where it is, we didn't do this, and this, and what do they say, it's not good because it's.
Well, just like she just sent me a thing that, you know, she sent a video of her kids playing and, how much she needs money and all that. And then, you know, when I open up to read it, she'll swear at me and insult me. And I've had people say her Facebook page, she's talking about her evil, greedy, landlord that evicted her from her house when she had no place to go.
And it's not my fault, because she lacks a little bit of control.
Yes, exactly. And it's always my fault that whatever.
Well, it can't be my fault, so it has to be your fault.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I wouldn't.
But I find that these people are like kids, and you can't force kids to do the right thing. All you can do is shape the path so that they can do the right thing if they want. You can't force them to do it. But also, I'm not going to enable them. I'm not just going to keep giving them money. It's not like they're my kids that I don't give them money no matter what.
But then everybody, they probably treat everywhere they go and everything about it right that way.
Yes.
And so service providers.
The strangest thing is, she said when she was leaving this house, she's just joined the church, and the church is providing her a place to live. That was the first thing she said. I'm paying $550 a month to the church for rent, so now I need a car. And I'm thinking, you never paid me any rent.
She's not paying that either.
Well, I don't know. I'm assuming the church isn't stupid either, but I don't know.
She's not. That's why she was just creating some false debt, maybe, or like if we give her money for a car.
What you're saying is when I'm paying $550 a month rent,
Is that,
proves I'm paying your car payment.
No, you have to do it for a whole year, right on time, every
Well,
month.
the thing is, if you're paying them $550 a month, why did you ever pay either?
She's not paying the $550, she's lying for it.
But, you know, even if she is paying you, she thinks she has to pay them, because they'll pay her, whereas I kept giving her a break all the time.
She's leaving the church for a year, they're not.
So she's one of those people that has all Christian sayings, safe, or steadfast, and all that. She's full of things.
Makes her happy.
So now I start to her security. I remember that for a lot of times.
I've always heard that you was just.
That's, I don't know, you know what, you make the,
I don't know. Now, the parking lot behind your house.
go to the water, something, they pay for it themselves, so if there's a major problem, the water heater goes out, all like that. But there seem to be fewer and fewer all the time.
Yeah,
So I need to strengthen my,
Chance
background
to
checks.
They go there and see what's up there.
You know, Craig down there, he's there every month with his rent, I raise his rent, he doesn't ask for anything.
Cinnamon coffee, cinnamon flavored coffee.
You know, I mean.
What you do if you want
He's
to
there for.
sub to one bank contract.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bank contract on a 30-year mortgage is less than his mortgage for his rent payments.
Right.
But then he has to pay the taxes and he has to pay the insurance.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing.
And what I found out is, I tell them that, they don't do it, so now I pay the taxes, I pay the insurance, and then I add that on their monthly payment. So I'm sure the taxes get paid, and I'm sure the insurance gets paid. And I asked them, do you want to be fully insured, or do you want to be just insured for what you owe on the house? I mean, you know, you can, because the more you insure it for, the more it costs you. But it's your choice. Because basically, you're the kind of the owner of the house, unless you just leave and try to make most of it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I'm covered.
That's quite a time.
Like that. With Christmas.
It says something. It says
Mistletoe.
Mistletoe, mistletoe.
Yes.
What's that?
Might just be doing something.
Are we gonna bring stuff up from downstairs?
Just these three things.
We're just doing some.
Lynn is decorating.
Gotta put this out.
I think we got the right one.
All right. Oh, no, we don't want that. It's the nativity scene.
Oh, and then we.
Except Stick Jesus broke. I think,
Jesus broke? When did it happen?
I don't know, but Janet was still here.
Oh.
And she used to joke about it all the time.
You glued back again?
It must be good because I passed those things last year. They always look good.
Okay. We gotta find a book or something, don't we? They might be downstairs. We thought we. I don't know, but. Maybe, or how about over there on that one?
You put it in the middle of our.
Oh, there you go.
Or.
We could turn about them against the point of one of these cameras. Because this actually got ropes and it doesn't.
Yeah. Something. What is it?
That looks pretty against the wood, but it's not necessarily balanced, so.
It makes me want to have
Or, you know, I don't want to put it outside, do we?
No, I don't think so.
Happens in the.
I don't think it's an exterior
Yeah.
wreath.
Didn't we have to stop on that?
We have two sprays, or two small wreaths that we put on the outside doors, and they're a little bit weather worn, but they're used to the weather. They've been out there a good number of years. This is the window, green wreath, and the window, two of these, or one or two of these, sometimes three can go in each windows. The various lengths of these can be used, right? They go, there's a real, some of these, they just go in the windows.
Yes.
I think so.
That's like my
And then there's a real long one that don't be draped on the
Yeah.
inside.
That's nice.
The light, but I don't know if we brought them up.
So I put stuff in the windows.
Or just wipe it off the table and put the nativity scene there. Doesn't matter which way it is. It'll stick better.
Yeah.
Okay. One.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, no, I do. We can do this with. Everything else. No, not gonna be. Now, these are the outside. Okay, but you be in here, it's not what on another now. So, these are short. These are the outside ones. That's, I'm not sure where that goes. We just kind of made it there for a minute. We will figure it out.
Oh, do you remember this?
Huh?
Do you remember this?
What? Where you at?
I'm gonna let you handle
Oh, no, you guys take care of that. I'm trying to find.
it. I really what the heck I'm doing.
We put the candles in the windows there?
Yeah. Should be one there for each one of the windows.
Real? Oh my gosh.
See what's in there. These are the little things. That's Yelpior and Alpha.
I think this was a real one and they just put it back there. Oh my gosh. That doesn't work. Put it however you think Jesus will like it. Oh, no, it's just stuff so, because it's so old. No. But it was wrapped up well. Except mine is something to put on the
That's getting in the Christmas spirit.
I don't see anything.